for the most part, I would say 90% of families are unprepared when this time comes. Because your goal is to keep them at home. I mean, your loved one raised you, supported you when you were young, and well, why would you move them in somewhere?
Today, we're excited to welcome Katie and James, founders of Shore Senior Placement, to the Modern Therapy Podcast. Katie is a registered nurse and certified dementia practitioner with over 15 years of experience across hospitals, home care, and skilled nursing settings. James brings a strong advocacy and support-focused approach, helping families navigate complex decisions with confidence. Together, they help families throughout Monmouth and Ocean County find the right senior living and care options for their loved ones. Their work is also personal. After guiding a member of their own family through the challenges of arranging care, they built Shore Senior Placement to support others facing similar decisions with clarity and compassion. On today's episode, we'll discuss how to recognize when it's time to explore additional care, what to look for in assisted living or memory care facilities, and how to navigate the emotional side of these decisions. Let's dive in.
So we are so excited to have Katie and James here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
So we just want to hear a little bit about, how you guys got here, how you started your business, when you started it, and a little bit of background of each of you.
Sure. I mean, I'll go ahead and start.
take the lead.
So, sure. Started Shore Senior Placement. I'm James Peters, by the way, in early 2025, and came into the business. It was really a personal mission, just from having lived through the experience for a decade prior, just going through it with a family member, with my mother, in a really complicated situation. And Katie, being a nurse, was really helpful in the process. So it was more of a mission for me. It's not my primary business. It's something that I take a lot of passion in helping families. It brings a lot of meaning because it also connects me back to, my mother in a way. So really just enjoy helping families find the right kind of assisted living, memory care, independent living. Just really help them go through that journey, because there is just not that many answers out there as we go through kind of this aging process that's happening in our area.
Yeah.
So do you wanna...
Yeah. So hi, I'm Katie Peters, and I run Shore Senior Placement alongside James. I'm a registered nurse of 15 years, and I've worked in about every healthcare setting. So I have a good idea about what the level of care each facility can provide. So that's where a lot of questions come in with families that give us a call. They're unsure what the best next step is for their aging loved one. And for the most part, I would say 90% of families are unprepared when this time comes. Because your goal is to keep them at home. I mean, your loved one raised you, supported you when you were young, and well, why would you move them in somewhere? And we have home care services we work with, where we can give referrals to families that want to try staying at home first, which is what we did with our loved one. And but when it comes to finding best fit assisted living or memory care if dementia is involved, that's where we really come in and guide families from start to finish, going over level of care these communities can provide, costs, amenities that are present if they're more assisted living appropriate, locations that have pools, putting greens, little dog parks.
Nice.
So those little
Amazing.
walking areas,
So many
outdoor
things.
areas, rather than versus being located on a highway. Just all those little things where he'll cut that extra time out and stress and bring clarity, guidance, and a steady hand.
Yeah, I can only imagine the peace that you guys bring families, being able to step alongside them in this journey, because it's not an easy journey to go through at all. I also want to mention that you guys are husband and wife, just for anyone wondering.
A fellow husband and wife team.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through exactly what does Shore Senior Placement do from the moment someone calls to the moment someone is matched with the right place?
So we're never called just to say, how's the weather? We're usually brought in to a situation from either someone who knows about us in town, referral, or we're brought into the situation because they've heard of our work. And they are usually in some level of crisis, or they know they're facing a situation. We usually are finding most people are reaching out to us, trying to figure out how to even get started. That's the most important thing. The first call that comes to us is usually a 20 to 30-minute call that Katie takes. We then usually review the call, but we really are helping the family understand where they're at in the journey, and we're going to help them make sure that, to give you an example, I get excited when I hear certain things because I know I spent, let's just say, 40 hours trying to do something. I know we can help them get that done in 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that time it's such a stressful time. When I say it's stressful, I mean relatives are now having to speak with relatives in a way that they haven't had to do, make decisions, and there's all kinds of things involved, and there's emotions, and it's a really challenging time for a family. And when I went through it and we went through it, we really wish there was something out there. So we really wanted to design something that we wished we had when we were going through it. So we kind of really have tried to think of everything that we could. Oh, of course, we've learned some new stuff. For instance, we meet new people along the way all the time.
Always.
But we're going to help them. Katie from the clinical side, she's an RN. I'm going to help them more on the business side and a little bit more of the guidance side, having been the POA in a situation and having just that dealing with the guilt, just all of those things that make that process. So it's not just calling a service to say, hey, where do I help find my loved one, or where do I place my loved one? We want to help so that whether it's going to end up being a home care referral, or you can't, your funds are in right order. We're going to give you a Medicare or Medicaid specialist, or Katie's going to help guide you through the journey. So
yeah, it's just so complex, and I love that you guys come from a place of like personally having like navigated this world, and obviously the RN background. Like, it's just the healthcare system, the different levels of care, the insurance factors, the costs, like. It's just probably so overwhelming. And I'm sure a lot of the people that you're working with are experiencing this for like the first time, and they're just, don't know what to do. I want to talk a little bit more about the guilt that you brought up. Can you kind of speak to, the guilt factor that comes into decision-making around, senior placement?
Yeah. I mean, it's always present because you feel when you realize when all the signs are there that someone might need to have to go into a place or have to look at a community, you almost feel a sense of dread or am I doing right by them? Am I being too controlling? Because you have to really think about their quality of life, because we want someone, just from our own experience, but also seeing how others, there's a big movement really to have people age in place, but also I watched one of the things that was really helped relieve the guilt with my own mother was seeing her thrive in a community, like having her run a poker game, and play seven and take it, and I could see her smiling and having fun when I was leaving was just something that I take it with me, and it's something that I remember seeing when I would see those moments when I would talk to some of the people that work there at one of the facilities.
Which they still work there, and they still know of her because I've been back.
Aw.
They're like, oh, Joanne.
I love that.
Yeah. So there's those memories. So, but that first month especially, that turning that process over, because I want to hold on to it, I want to control it. You have to let go. You have to understand that when you're no longer in control, you have to always think about, how am I going to act in this how am I going to act in my loved one's best interest? That has to be number one.
Yeah.
So if it's time, it's time.
That's huge. And you mentioned that people are coming to you, they're already in crisis mode.
Yeah.
What are some signs that people can look for to kind of prevent getting to that crisis mode?
Yeah. Well, if dementia is involved, ideally you want to, if they're walking out of the house and forgetting where they are,
Yeah.
You want to catch that before they start wandering, and if they're also driving. I've heard, that's what a silver alert is. Someone with dementia who's driving. I've heard stories of family members that live down in Monmouth County and their loved one ends up in Sea Caucus.
Oh my gosh.
And they don't know how they got there.
Scary.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
So the wandering with dementia, but as far as just not thriving in general, I would say missed medications just because of general forgetfulness, not eating well, isolating. Isolating is a big part of how seniors can decline quickly. The assisted livings provide such a quality of life as far as stimulation goes mentally and socially, where they end up thriving, which James described.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law, she lived a very long, happy life at an assisted living.
Yeah.
Where we had to let go first and realize, okay, it's time. But most people do wait till past the time. If you find yourself thinking about, maybe this isn't safe anymore, if it's just popping into your head, it's a good time to start investigating. So you have information, and with information, you can make confident decisions.
Yeah. And it sounds like maybe finding a place ahead of time, even if it's not 100% necessary yet, but knowing, hey, if we get to this point, we have a place already picked out.
Yes.
That probably makes such a difference for people.
Because you have the information, and when you're in crisis, you can't think clearly.
Yeah.
It's emotional. And if you do the planning beforehand, you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. And you kind of see, I'm sure you guys see it all, but different families where there's one sole caregiver and they're kind of taking on everything by themselves. Or on the other hand, where you have multiple kids involved. In what situation do you see the most resistance in people being like, okay, I need to start looking for a facility?
I'd say there's usually one main, that kind of everyone gravitates to.
Yeah.
But there has, of course, we've worked with over 80 families now. So we've seen,
I've had situations where they don't end up moving forward with
correct.
looking into assisted living because there's too much disagreement.
That has to be complicated. Like if you have 4 kids and they're not all on the same page with one place, I wonder if that's more complicated than doing it by yourself. But then also when you have one caregiver, they can be burnt out and exhausted. That's also really challenging too.
Yeah, so I could speak to that because that's something that, Katie and I were talking about this before we came here today, and there was a situation where there was a son involved who was trying to, he really wanted to push the father into helping the mother get into assisted living. And I said, well, we were talking about, I said, that's really the call of the father, because that's, even there might be some evidence there. It's really up to them if that's the spouse. But if you find yourself not sleeping well, or it's interfering, the same things you would when you start to have caregiver burnout. You're already in it. You're losing sleep. That's the point where it's already too late, and that's where folks benefit and families benefit from understanding their options. And one of the things we try to do is we love to speak about once a month just with some of our colleagues, because that number is accurate. I mean, 90% of families are not prepared either financially or understanding what's out there.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
And when the time comes, it's a fire sale. It's not a...
There's a lot of financial fear.
There's a lot of fear.
Because it's private pay, these communities.
And people, I've yet to meet one person who's surprised by the bill. And I don't know... It's not going down. So,
oh man, yeah.
I haven't found a single family yet that's like, how much does that cost? I'm like, yeah, it's
so no one's been like, wow, that's a great deal. They should charge me more.
So I just, for the people that don't know, what are the costs generally?
Yeah. You could take
in Monmouth County, assisted living.
Yeah.
Average $8,000 a month.
Wow.
Dementia care between $10,000 and $12,000 to start.
Wow.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah. So what can people do to start preparing financially for that other than save money? But you said that you have people who go through Medicaid and that you work with them. What does that process look like?
So there's with Medicaid, that's a whole nother profession, really. There's a whole practice geared towards Medicaid specialists. They're usually attorneys or they're Medicaid specialists on their own. A lot of people in this area have a lot of assets, so that is usually they're not usually applicable. It's important if someone is thinking of going or they see this road coming, that they start preparing, because there's a 5-year look back period.
Okay.
And if you don't use a home care agency that's Medicaid approved, or you're using companion care, that might not count towards the spend down. So there's certain things, and I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah.
You call a back of the napkin expert just from having lived through it.
You're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I give general advice. I'm like, hey, you really want to talk to, and that's so important to us, because I didn't have that. I used to call it a Rolodex. Now I call it, you're I know, but it's so important to have those people that you work with that I know within 3 sentences of where this person needs to speak to somebody based on where they're at. So the planning, whether it's financial, like long-term care type planning, there's different types of plans, and we have different financial advisors we use depending on
That's great.
on the circumstance. We are a little more partial towards some estate attorneys because we work with them every day, but that being said,
We know some estate attorneys that we like. Shout out to Anna.
yeah, exactly. So Anna's great. But we understand that everyone's going to kind of people are different. So we try to help where we can. We're usually brought in, we should be brought in the first or second inning. We're brought into the 8th or 9th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. So we're trying to do the best in that situation.
When you guys are brought in that 8th or 9th inning, like from your perspective, what are the things that you look at prioritizing?
Oh, first and foremost is the person's care.
I go over medically what's going on, hospitalizations, falls, medications they're on, if dementia's involved, if behaviors are contributing to part of the disease process. Some communities will tolerate more behaviors versus others, as far as if they're combative at times, resistance to care.
Impulse control.
Yeah. And and then we also consider where they are at in their disease process. I look what's going on now. What could it look like 6 months down the road? What could it look like 12 months down the road? With this community, these communities that I narrow down to, would it still be a good fit? Is there a risk that you're going to have to move again? I always like to make them aware of the care levels the communities can provide.
That's huge, because you don't want someone to go through this whole process, and then, like you said, 6 months later, they're moving to another facility. I'm sure that can be really traumatizing.
It is, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
On the senior to move.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the family.
So I'll speak to something because it was very personal for us. When my mom was given a diagnosis, I went and saw a specialist to try to plan out, because she had a few different illnesses, presenting all at the same time. And I was told to prepare for 1 to 2 years. She ended up living 9 years.
Wow.
So, that was, there was multiple moves, multiple hospitalizations. It was a very trying process. So, there's only so much planning you can do, but there's also, we'll have a pretty good idea. We don't want to ever have to have somebody go into a second place. That hasn't happened for us yet, fortunately. But but there's a lot of things you could look for up front where I didn't know going in. Katie and I have spent a lot of time to understand this area.
Yeah.
What are the types of things like you're looking for when you're evaluating a facility?
That's Katie's.
Yeah.
So when I go in,
that's her world.
When we set up the tours with the families, I narrow down to 3, like a short list of 3 communities, because there's over 40 communities in Monmouth County, so it's overwhelming. And when families first step foot in them, they're like, "Oh, I can do this on my own." And then they go on 1 or 2 tours, and they're like, they have a lot of questions, like, "Well, why is this more?" Or "What's the difference between these two?"
Right.
So and that's when they work with us, we create a short list. I set up the tours with the communities. I don't just give them a list to go do it on their own. I walk through with them or with the sales director at the time, and they're all great in Monmouth County. Like, everyone is so friendly.
Yeah.
But I help decipher the difference between each building as far as the longevity of staff. For the memory care communities, do they have special dementia care training? because dementia not only requires the right environment, but especially trained staff, because it's a challenging disease.
Yeah.
And then, what else was I going to mention about that? Oh, and just we help look past the decor, watch how the staff is engaging,
Yeah.
and so things like that.
Because that's a common problem in the industry is staff turnover, right? Yeah.
Turnover.
Yeah.
I could tell you from, and we also work with Ocean County as well. Like, Brick is a big area for us. So is, Wall, and it's kind of all this Monmouth, the shore corridor is really our. But we also work with families, out west and throughout New Jersey, just because that's the way it's expanded. But I could tell when I'm dealing with the business side of it, it's really interesting because it's proven true 100% of the time so far. I have a business background. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and business is it's not the same, but it rhymes, right? And when I interact with a facilities administrator or their contract process, that gives me a feel in and of itself. Like just the way, for instance, how Katie was treated on a tour, or how open they are to letting us into the partnership or letting us into their world.
Says a lot.
Says a lot about how things really are. So when we see communities that don't open us to open arms, I take note of that, right? Because for me, I'm like, well, I'm essentially acting on behalf of the family to get them, one, really to understand their contractual terms, because my other businesses have a lot of contracts in them, right? So
you're signing a resident agreement.
You're signing a resident agreement in the middle of this, like, I'm turning my
Emotional
loved one
crisis.
over in a
You're like,
crisis.
who's even reading what's in that?
One page, fully loaded,
man.
indemnify me from everything.
Like, sounds good. Here you
Sounds
go.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And look, as much as we love our community partners we deal with, it's still primarily, and they have a lot of care involved, but it's still a sales position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, there is an incentive for them to
A big one.
So the two things that were important to me when I started this business is, this is not my primary income. This is not our primary income. So we're not going to be vested the same way because we're considered a placement agent. We're not going to be in the same position. Because to me, I don't want to ever have to be in a spot where I'm like, oh, that place is going to give us a little extra incentive, because we want to be a free resource to the families, but we also want to make sure that the families are getting what they can. I always try to get them something. So that's another uncomfortable conversation. In addition to the contracts, this is my side of the house, like as far as where she is really doing the clinical stuff. Her bedside manner is far better than mine. I know my limitations.
That's good.
So what I do is, for families, because I don't have that need to be liked. I know a lot of people do. I don't have that, right? So
That must be nice.
I don't know. So my job is, if you guys ever went to buy a car and you had to deal with that second person who all of a sudden wanders up and says, how you folks doing today?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation with the sales folks when you're trying to finalize, like, can I get the community fee waived? What can we help with? What incentives to help move them in?
Yeah.
We have a pretty good idea based on occupancy in working with our partners, what that's going to look like. So I try to have that conversation as much as I can for them, depending on what community it is. Some communities we know and trust the sales directors, and we know them so well that they're an extension of us, essentially. Yeah. Especially for certain types of dementia care, we are really partial, right? Because of how well they take care of it.
Yeah.
But just we want to make sure they don't have to have any of that discomfort, any additional discomfort.
That's so nice.
See, that's interesting. Like, I didn't realize that, you can negotiate with these facilities. Yeah. Like, so that's interesting. What is that something that you think, like, people do, like most people, or do they not know that?
I mean, you have to think about, we're heading into a wave of a tsunami, silver tsunami, as they call it, right? Or the baby boomers are in this. We're in the middle of this right now. So there are going to be places that have higher occupancy. So you have to know your audience too. You also have to know, where, like, who's willing to give a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that inside baseball that happens, but yes, there's always something.
Yeah.
There has been times where, we're just happy to get you the last, the last place, so that's it as well.
So for someone who's navigating this process on their own right now, and maybe they don't have like an advocate, like looking over the contracts, right, or anything like that, can you give somebody like some easy wins that they can negotiate with these complexes for?
Sure. I would say first the community fee, try to get that, maybe get a few days prorated, even if they're like, we can't do, they'll usually give you something. But try to get a rate lock. This is a really big one. Because of inflation, try to get a rate lock for the year.
Okay.
And say, hey, that's going to be really important to me. And, almost do like, I got to look at, they're offering me down there. You got to do the whole, you have to do that a little bit. So for a family just not looking to be, to be annoying, because like I said, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I would say the two things I would look at is, can I get some prorated days? Can I get a rate lock? Any incentives. Sometimes they offer move-in incentives. Those are the type of things that you can get quick wins on right away.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people wouldn't even know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was even an option. So that's
Yeah,
good.
most families don't.
And I don't think negotiation is like something you're actively thinking about when you're trying to get your.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
no.
But I mean, it could be as easy as just like saying a sentence or two, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how can somebody looking at a facility, frame that or phrase that when they're talking to a sales director?
I would just say, hey, we're trying to make sure we're able to stabilize this process as we go forward, because we've been planning. We want to make sure that we have a, I really call it like a rate stabilization or something like that. But I would say, hey, can we look at it, and just so we're able to budget correctly, what are we able to do on the cost? Is there anywhere we have any room? Something just very basic, just a very basic way, and frame it towards we're trying to plan this appropriately for our level. You don't have to use the exact wording I'm using, but it's something
kind of see what their
really-
response
Right.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
just try to really say, hey, we're trying to plan this out right, and it'll be really helpful if we can budget this correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually they'll get it.
They'll get it. Yeah.
They know.
Yeah, they know. Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think one of the biggest concerns that they have is the quality of care in facilities, and worrying they're going to send their loved ones there and the care is just not going to be great. How do you guys vet that out?
Well,
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's our specialty over there.
I've been to.
I would talk about your work background first.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I've worked in the field for 15 years. Hospitals, subacute, rehabs, nursing homes, home care setting, assisted livings.
Private
so,
duty.
Private duty.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. I couldn't figure out why I was moving around so much. I'm like, it was for this reason.
Yeah.
So I understand what level of care is involved, but not only I can tell walking into a community how engaged the staff is, because I worked in the communities. You can tell who's present and who visibly seeing staff as well in the community. So along with that, just my instincts, we review state reports where the New Jersey Department of Health goes into the facilities and they inspect them yearly and with complaints when complaints are made. So I'm viewing that. Most families don't think to look at that.
Is that anyone can access
that?
Oh.
Yes.
How's that access? Where do people find that?
New Jersey Department State of Health website.
Didn't
You
even know
go
that.
I think it's under facilities tab, and then you search assisted livings or nursing homes. under the county.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were the complaints and the deficiencies will come up.
Amazing. Okay.
So that's another way. Like, we don't help with placement. We help more with guidance with nursing homes, but that's another way when you're leaving a hospital, going to a nursing home, and you get a list from the social worker. Okay, these are the nursing homes or subacutes around this area.
Yeah.
I would suggest going on the state website and looking at the reports, the Medicare rating, because that will tell you a lot. But also going to tour these communities.
Yeah.
You have to see it. Now with assisted livings and the memory care, we go with you because that's our specialty.
Also, you
So-
want to know, is there
yeah.
a nurse 24/7?
Yeah.
Right.
Are you paying for chandeliers or are you paying for care?
Yeah.
That's the two things.
It's half and half.
So we want to make sure that depending on, because everyone's different.
Yeah.
I mean, some people
Or more medical.
are more
They
medical.
benefit
Right.
from a nurse
The
being there.
acuity is much higher and they benefit from 24/7 nurse coverage. Some are there for socialization and it's more of an independent or a low level
Yeah.
assisted living, because there's different care levels. So that is, you want to look when you come into a building and we know where that case is or where that family is, we want to look around and say, how vibrant is this community?
Yeah.
Like some communities have a community dog.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
it
that's there.
has a homey feel to it. It smells like pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
And I want to come back here.
Right.
Can you get a sense for that kind of vibe by looking at the residents of the building?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can probably visibly see it when
I mean, in Monmouth and Ocean County, we kind of have it on auto. It's unless we hear of a staffing change,
Right.
we know.
You
them,
know,
but,
yeah.
But we know how a lot of it has to do with how you see the residents, the type of activities, things like.
And it's a feel. You could.
There's
feel
also
it.
little things like how are the outings? Do they have a community bus? Are they able to take them on appointments? For someone who needs, say, dialysis, are they going to accommodate that, or are they going to have to get transportation on their own? There's all these nuances to each community
Yeah.
that people have to really plan out, and that's where the medical side of it really is important to understand what level you're kind of encountering.
Yeah, because that can really impact the quality of life. Yeah. We always, his aunt is in an independent living place right now, and we always say every time we go there, every single staff member smiles, greets us, remembers who we are. We have 2 toddlers, and they're always like, "Oh, like so and so is here to visit today," and like they're so excited to see the kids. And the resident, we can't even walk down the hallway without being stopped by like 5
Bring
residents.
2 toddlers into an assisted,
and they just like glob to them, and they just want to talk to them and play with them. And I'm like, every time we're here, you just feel that. Like you just feel like people are happy here. The staff is happy. Like they'll stop it. Like we did a birthday lunch for her one day, and we used one of the areas, and every single staff member stopped in. It was like, I just wanted to see the birthday party and say hi and like meet everyone. And we're like, wow. Like, and it wasn't a one-time thing. It was every time we went there, we felt that. So I can totally resonate with what you guys are saying, that, if you're walking in and everyone has their heads down, no one's greeting you, the people who are there, everyone's in their rooms, that's going to be a really different feel.
Out, what you described is a really good situation.
Yeah.
It's really good. That is a very, very good chance that things are going really well.
Yes. And we felt that every time we went. We would always leave with a smile on our faces, being like, okay, like this is a really nice environment.
You get to feel like, good about the scenario that your loved one's in, So
that's huge. Yeah. I'm curious if you've had any places that have said, hey, we'll work with you, that you guys are like, obviously don't say names, but that you guys have been like, no, I see red flags. We're probably not going to work with this place.
Yeah, there's ones I've been to because I toured early last year when we first officially started the business.
Yeah.
I went around.
She went to everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
She wanted to see who would just meet with her.
And not
amazing.
When we were starting up, I wasn't getting contracts at the time, like agreements between Shore Senior Placement and the assistant.
Yeah.
I was just taking a look and seeing, well, is this acceptable standards?
Yeah.
And yes, there were a few where I didn't follow through with anything. But I also know there are some that are more affordable. So I'm not going to discount them because they don't have the money coming in. Because they're a smaller location. There's one we actually just partnered with in Freehold, independent living, great price. It took me a few months to find someone like her, and it's just quality. Where not all the independent livings that are, let's say, $2,500, $3,500 a month are quality.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, they genuinely care.
Yeah, they care.
That's huge.
So,
because we get paid by the facilities, and we were, we're willing to take that haircut because they're a small shop. They're not, so we're looking at it going, we just love that we're able to, because when people call up, we hate saying when these $7,000, $8,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if as long as you're okay with, there are some options that we have. So a couple, one in Ocean, one in Monmouth, that that we work with that are fairly reasonable, and that's a big difference for us, because that's a part of the market that you're like, they end up going to the hospital, going to a subacute, and usually there's just not a great outcome there, because at some point people you hope that they don't, but at the same time, if they do have to go to a facility or go to a community, that they're that they're in a place that they're thriving.
Yeah.
And it's great that you guys can say, hey, I can get you a lower price tag, but here are some of the things, right? Like maybe it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, or maybe there's certain, like maybe the activities are not, whatever it is, but you guys can at least be upfront with, hey, we can save you the money, but just know this is kind of what we're cutting back on, right? And if families are good with that, it sounds like that could be a really great match.
Yeah, so there's a couple things, right? So there's a few, and we won't name names, but there's a couple that, that are from a standard standpoint we won't work with, but also just because also the way they might not want to work with or deal with outside.
They don't view us as
a
part of the team.
As a part of the team,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
interesting, and that's okay. I mean, listen, that's up to them. That's fine, but we also that lets us know a few things about how business works, and that's okay, and that's so we're I would say we're working with actively about 75 to 80% of the communities.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So 20% either they don't work with placement, and that's fine. Like I said, that's part of their culture, and that's fine. And some are just, I wouldn't recommend just because of experiences. But but there is a place for most places. There is a resident that's going to fit there. For most places. So that's the one thing that I would say is. So you'll hear someone say, I had a bad experience at so-and-so. I'm like, well, they might not have been the right care or, it could have been an isolate, so we're sympathetic because, Katie's spent a ton of her career in healthcare. I've heard the stories, right?
Yeah.
And
an example.
Example
I like to use is like, no matter what, when you're over a certain age, you're going to be a fall risk. So going into an assisted living doesn't mean you're not going to fall there because you have help.
Right.
Assisted livings, they don't have someone following you around 24/7 to be at your side when you get unsteady. They do put interventions in place, but if you do need that 24/7 care, they will ask you to hire a home care service to come in because they can't provide that service.
Right.
And it's all about just setting the expectation for the family.
Yeah.
And not waiting for the problem to happen at the assisted living. The family to be upset, so-and-so fell many times, and it's, they're ready to pull their loved one out. But there's an adjustment period, and I like to prepare them with a wealth of information so they can succeed, transition.
Yeah. It sounds like that education piece and the expectation setting is huge. I'm curious, how many people do you have to, they're calling you, they're obviously very emotional at times. How much of it is working with them towards that acceptance of your parents probably do need a higher level of care, acceptance of maybe the diagnosis isn't going to get better. Like, how much does that play a role in everything?
I do talk a lot about that. And for the most part, people do hear me and appreciate what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, they acknowledge it, but there's still that denial that's blocking them from hearing it clearly.
She says it with the right medical, and she also has a lot of empathy, right?
Yeah.
Like, when
I can sense that.
When I hear the conversation, she says it directly, but she says it in a way where I was like, I could take that if I was that person. I overhear it because I'm not as good as her at saying the things like, hey, you really need this care level, or you should consider this memory care because it's designed for memory care, not an assisted living that has a memory care attached to it because you start an assisted living and then go to memory care from there. She has, the way she describes it is, that's just the nurse for having experience.
Having conversations about hospice and how that's a benefit because that provides more services and more support. And you can go on and off of hospice.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you are telling a family member, hey, maybe we should consider hospice, you are preparing for that emotional response from them. So it's like
They're
have...
oh, it's not that time.
Yes.
Wait. Yes.
Yeah. So you have both sides of that. It's kind of similar to our dynamic. Like Brandon is more the business side, I'm more the therapy side. But I was kind of thinking about therapy when you guys were describing the different facilities because, we have a team of therapists. And each therapist is so different. So we always say to clients, if you are paired with a therapist, we do our best to pair you with the right the right person. But if it's not the right person, just tell us because you can tell us, oh, hey, these were the things that I didn't click with that therapist about. Okay, great. We'll get you someone else who you can click better with. And I think that, yeah, also setting that expectation that not every therapist is for every person, just like not every facility is going to be for every person. Like everyone has different needs and personalities and families. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about families who maybe want to give it a shot doing it at home. What advice can you give them? You know, somebody who maybe, you know, wants to create a home environment for their loved one, maybe isn't ready to go into explore that route. Is there anything they can be doing to set themselves up for success?
Yeah, the first thing I would think of course, is home care, obviously, but is the infrastructure side. So if you could make some adjustments to recliners, because the biggest thing that's going to cause somebody to have to go into a facility is a fall, most likely. So if you can account for some of the things that would make life a little easier, modifications to the home, that's going to be really helpful.
Little things like picking up the throw rugs on the ground.
Oh,
Very common.
yeah.
Looking at hazards,
Yeah.
right?
Hazards, things that are going to cause hospitalization. You know,
What are some other hazards that you guys are seeing?
Stairs.
Stairs.
Night lights on at night. They clearly see where they're going.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, people being able to get up to those easy recliners. I think there's there's a couple of companies that we've again this is start of the stuff we learned at
Yeah.
the start of the business. There's whole businesses out there that will help remodel and help you find the right
Oh, wow.
like modify the home a little bit so you reduce that fall risk. So there's I'm not really for this, I have to just say it, but there are some tools. I have a technology business in addition to this, and where they use sensors and AI to kind of like see where what the loved one's up to. I'm kind of in the I'm kind of mixed on that, but certainly if there is a way to see
Baby monitors. You can
yeah,
use.
I would say
Yeah.
I'd rather go down some of the more simplified baby monitor routes and things like that. There's a lot of things that you could do, and that's something that we strongly suggest that you try that
And
first.
physical therapy, you could get it through your loved one's physician through a script, so you're not private paying, because home care is private pay as well. Just to have more people in the house, stimulating, getting them active. There's also adult daycares with loved ones with dementia that provide a service where they can go out. They're
awesome.
great.
Yeah,
they are great.
We went and visited a few of them just because we wanted to be able to help our clients.
Yeah.
Because
they spend a day there. They
spend a day
stimulate
there.
them with activities.
That's so nice.
That's nice.
The biggest thing you're up against is isolation.
Yes.
Because if you're having an illness or you're aging and you have some things going on, it's you got to stick with what's in here all day, and if that's starting to decline as well, and you don't have that socialization to bring you back to remember who you are a little bit. That could be problematic.
Yeah, I love that idea for the people who feel like maybe they need something in the middle ground as step one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe that's not going to work forever, but I love that idea.
And it gives the caregiver also a break. when they're out during the day.
Right.
And when I say like, there's a couple that are really like they're
Rockin'
fun.
ones.
They look like some of those fun sports and games type facilities. Almost like a Dave and Buster's feel, but not nicer though.
Yeah.
Like a Dave and Buster's feel where you're like, this looks like
Sign me up, right?
pool tables, and I'm sitting there going, I want to go hang out here for a while,
Right.
and you got lots of room to walk around, and so that part of it too is just knowing those little details that you're talking about. That what options are out there.
That's major.
Is the key because traditionally our industry, there's a well-known service. Again, won't name the name, but I call it 1-800-GOOD-LUCK. It's advertised nationally, and those folks are highly incentivized to get you referred to a facility. They're not going to go on a tour with you. They're not going to do those. They're not going to. They're just. They're a business first mindset, and when you have that, that's just asking for, to have the stories. That's what creates the stories. That's what creates the bad reviews.
Right.
So,
I can see that.
I just remember having used that service. People were called me for over and over again from call centers, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. So when we thought about this, I wanted to make sure that we, we're kind of, helping that in that whole spectrum or that whole experience from start to finish. Just being a resource, just being someone that's gonna add value and also knowing when to step away too. I mean, I think that's
Yes.
important,
Yeah.
right? Like, because we'll provide a little bit of support after moving a little bit just to make sure, but that transition isn't easy. But you know, we now have a pretty good feel for when folks are kind of ready to just kind of, you know, that things are going well. We check in and
Yeah.
we hear that, and well, we love hearing that they've acclimated well and they're moving around and doing well.
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah.
better than they did at
Yeah,
home.
that's-
It's like bittersweet, right? You're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, goodbye, but I'm happy that this worked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you guys could, I'm just curious, like if you could go back and tell yourself like one thing, maybe some encouragement or something that you've learned from when you were with your mom, what do you think you would speak to yourself?
I think I would just not be so hard on myself. There's no way around that. You're gonna feel guilt. You're gonna feel, am I doing the best I could be doing for her? There was I'll call it a doctrine because that's really what it was. But am I acting in her best interest first? Like always, you know. I mean, like I made sure unnecessarily that she had like art supplies and like a whole like just to the point of like, you know, I would say if I had to talk to myself from a decade ago, I would just say, you know, you could go a little easier on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and
Yeah.
that's a tough thing. And I don't care who it is, who's ever in that moment is going to still be hard on themselves. And I would say give yourself permission to take care of yourself a little bit, because you know I let myself go. You know, to so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people have that expectation on themselves. It almost reminds me of parenting in a way where it's like, right, like you feel like I have to give 100% everything here and neglect myself and feel guilt no matter what, right? I don't know any parent who doesn't have some level of guilt for something that they're doing, right?
Yes.
So I love that you're realistic of, hey, you're going to feel bad about some choice you're making, but maybe we can lessen that a little bit and maybe you can take care of yourself along your way in the process.
You can't see, you're on autopilot, so you can't see
Yeah.
it. You're in it, and your ego is just trying to survive. And it's just, you know, and I think, you know, now being removed, it's very easy to tell myself, oh yeah, you should, you know, but when you're in
Of
it,
course.
you know, it's like when you have that anxiety, that's just that temperature's raised a little bit all the time. It's
Yeah.
hard to reach that place to say, hey, go do something for yourself today. You know, where I wasn't able to really do that.
Yeah. It's almost like you're in the perpetual newborn stage. That's what that first like 3 weeks of bringing a baby home. That's what that almost reminds me of, right? Because I can, you know, think back to like being like early postpartum and looking back and being like, wow, I was so hard on myself for no reason. But I don't know any new mom that isn't. But, you know, I think having that guidance, having people like you guys to walk through and be like, I've been there and this is what will make it easier. That's night and day for
Acknowledge
someone.
feelings, and that's what I've had family members tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told me this. I'm feeling the exact same thing right now.
Yeah. You're not alone in this. You're not the only person feeling this way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to do? Okay. Well, we like to end every podcast with a bonus segment called Am I the Problem? So we take these scenarios from Reddit and we read them to you guys, and you can tell us your thoughts on the situation, who's in the right, who's in the wrong. And it's really just to kind of spark conversation about it.
Sure.
Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
All right. So, am I the problem? Am I the problem if I put my grandpa in a full-time care facility behind my mom's back? So, 18-year-old male, live with my parents 3 days a week and my grandparents the other 4. The reason for this has been to help my grandparents with house and lawn care and complex chores. Neither of my grandparents are capable of doing everything on their own, but my grandma can make food and do most things on her own. My grandpa is a different story. My grandpa needs someone with him 24/7. He needs to be told when to eat, when to manage his blood sugar. He needs someone to help him get dressed and shower, among most things. He also pees in the kitchen sink because he can't tell it from a toilet. He doesn't even recognize me most of the time when I see him. Recently, he had a few instances that scared me. The first was he tried to fill up a coffee mug with dish soap and drink it, and almost did. I came in from mowing the lawn when I saw him in the window and barely stopped him by just ripping it from his hands when he wouldn't put it down. I wanted to put him in full time for a while, but my mom keeps saying no. She's scared of messing up her relationship with her mom and my grandpa, but at this point, I can't keep watching my grandparents live like this. My mom also refused to do anything when the peeing started, saying it was easier to clean it up than to fight my grandma to get him full time. But as the one who actually does the cleaning, I disagree. I know that I could have my grandpa admitted into a full-time care facility nearby, but my mom and grandma both don't want to do that. Would I be the problem if I got him admitted because I can't handle watching him 4 days a week anymore?
There's a lot in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Can you even do that? Can you even admit someone without
No.
the spouse knowing? Okay, so this one,
So it's not even
he
an
can't even
option.
do it anyway.
No, he's got this is very common. I'll just give you some. This is a little bit of opinion more than anything. But I think it's important we all play our role in life. You know, the mother seems like she's the main caretaker for the parents. He can maybe try to gently influence her, but it's essentially her call. You know, unless there's a definitive danger to himself or others that's present, that's documented. Otherwise, it's something that it's really the mother's call, and he has to kind of play the role and be supportive and try to help where he can. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Or step away if he's overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
And
step
let-
away. Yeah.
Let the situation take place.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
can't handle it.
maybe if he stepped away, it would, it would force
Yeah.
an action.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. So there is that step away does force action
Yeah.
because what you're describing is not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So the mother would probably have I would assume that the mother, if she doesn't, because I didn't hear anything about a power of attorney or anything like that, but that would probably be the next step, and the mother would, I would think, be the person next in line, I guess is what it describes. So if that were to occur, there probably would likely be a fall or some kind of, where the
Escalate the situation.
Yeah.
there would be an escalation of some sorts, whether a hospital stay or police had to come to the house or something like that will usually be the precursor to having that.
Them have more awareness of
Them
the
having
situation.
more awareness of the situation. That's when you're now have to go up against the denial part of the equation. So that's where you're meeting that denial phase. That is what you're describing is the very early stages of, usually, if you could fast forward the clock some months, there's going to be a few events that probably happen. And when those events happen, that's where we're eventually going to be brought in to maybe help. If not, and people are going to navigate on their own. But right there is that's usually what you're describing as a precursor situation.
Yeah. So it's almost like it has to get worse before it gets better in this situation. That's scary.
Yeah, and that's not all that. I know it sounded like it was loaded, but that's actually far more common than you.
I mean, it's probably, you guys in the industry probably see, like, it's a very predictable kind of pattern of things that happen
Yeah.
that
I see the pattern,
get
yeah.
people to their points, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, this has been so insightful. We learned so much. You guys are such a great resource for the community. We so appreciate everything that you do.
yeah.
How do people find you?
So, Shore Senior Placement or shoreplacement.com. Our phone number is pretty simple. So,
What's your phone number?
732-800-1002.
I love that. And you guys just started your Instagram, right?
yeah.
We did. We've been on Facebook a while, and
What's your Instagram handle?
Instagram.
She does.
Shore Senior Placement.
Shore Senior Placement.
Perfect. Easy to find.
And I love that you guys are completely free service, right? So they're
Oh yeah, we're free to families.
Yeah.
We're never going to charge you.
yeah.
Love that.
Even if you're just thinking about us, call us.
Yeah.
There's no
Have a
risk.
conversation.
Yeah.
There's no, we're paid by the facilities. We want to make sure that you get everything you can. That, again, this is a mission based business, so I want to make sure that the resources are there for people that we didn't have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the purpose.
Love
That's
that.
amazing. Love that. Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.